He's in class this afternoon. So those people I do know. Paul is out of town, Paul Mork. He notified me he's away. I haven't heard from Azada. And I know Ron just got back, didn't he, Sylvia?
Yes. Yep, after a great holiday, apparently.
Yeah. Yes. Order at 1:03 Eastern Daylight Time. And welcome, everyone. I'm so pleased that you could join this meeting of the First Person Witness Council. It's Monday, September 23rd, and we have a rather full agenda, so I'm going to go ahead and start. First of all, I'm going to call for approval by consensus of the agenda as previously distributed. Is there any need for further discussion of this agenda?
No.
Not for me, no.
Can everyone accept the agenda as presented?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. And now we'll go to the approval of the minutes. The July minutes needed to be amended, and Sylvia, you helped me with that. No, it was Jenny.
No, not
Was
me.
you? Okay. So we have amended them and sent them out, the July and August minutes. Did anyone find any errors or omissions that need to be addressed in either the July or the August minutes?
No.
No.
Is there any need for further discussion of these minutes at this time?
No.
No.
Can everyone accept them as presented?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That gets the little stuff out of the way, and now we can go ahead. And the first thing I'd like to do is say welcome to all the new members of the Dying with Dignity Canada First Person Witness Council. We had over 60 applicants over 2 sessions, and I ended up interviewing a number of people. And as a result of that, several people have been recommended highly to the Auxiliary Volunteer Corps, and their names have been passed along to Cheryl Wertman. And we are going to welcome some new members today. Donya Canaville of Sudbury, Ontario, will be the reporter for the Education Standing Committee. And Charles Van Duren, welcome, Charles. I know you're here today. From the Minas Basin region in Nova Scotia. We're glad to have you. Also on the Access Barriers Standing Committee, we have Kathy Jones joining us from Winnipeg, Manitoba. In the Made Grief Standing Committee, we welcome Chelsea Peddle from Victoria, BC. And that's the standing committees, the new members. I'm still interviewing. I have a couple of interviews pending. Now, if we look at the executive, that by the way, brings each standing committee to a full complement of 3 members each. We have reorganized the executive and broken the support down into 3 different positions. And one of them is an archivist's position. And the reason it's so important was that because when I was serving on another advisory council and we dwindled to just a very few members and had to go through the entire recruitment process with them last year, we discovered there was no documentation giving us guidance, and those of us left were fairly new. And so as a result, I think it's really important that we create an archive of the minutes of the council meetings and the standing committee meetings and the project plans. So that new position has been created, archivist. There was originally the vice chair position attached to that. I've removed that attachment. Nobody wants to be the vice chair, so we'll just leave that open until the future. Secretary, Jenny Henshaw very kindly, no, Hasselman, Jenny Hasselman very kindly accepted that position, and I'm very grateful to have her come on board. And Sylvia Henshaw has come on board as our communications officer, and she will be handling all our Dying with Dignity Canada website material, the bios on our page, plus the blog, plus the bulletin board. So Sylvia, would you like to take a moment to talk about your new position?
Well, it's very new. That's the first thing I want to say. And I'm very new in it. As I understand it, the technical bit, fortunately, will not be done by me. It will be done through either Rachel or Corey in the Digital Communications Department of Dying with Dignity Canada. So I guess the information goes through me, and I chase you up for your bios and your headshots if we don't already have them. And I may be leaning on some people for their stories of their MAID journey with their loved ones, or if you have a blog already on the Dying with Dignity page, perhaps we could have permission to transport it to the bulletin board when we get it up and running, and it will be the technical staff who actually get that bulletin board ready for the information. Once it's ready, then I can start. But that's how I see my position, Liana.
And you're absolutely spot on, Sylvia. The other thing is that the bulletin board, I hope, once we get our final project plans in motion, those will go on the bulletin board. A synopsis, not the actual plan itself.
Yes.
But a synopsis of the project plans will go on the bulletin board.
Right.
And our lived experiences and opinions and so on will go on the blog. So thank you, Sylvia. That's great. And Charles, you're representing our new members. Would you like to take a moment to introduce yourself and give us a little bit of your background?
Yes, Charles Van Buren. I guess my bio isn't up yet because Sylvia couldn't read it in the format that I sent her.
I've got it now.
Yeah. But briefly, what can I say? I'm here basically because of my wife Judith, who died about 16 months ago, and who was very thankful, as was I, for the existence of medical assistance in dying, because she was in pretty bad shape, and let's just say, summarize, it gave her back control over the little time that she had left. And one of the reasons that I'm here is because she came very close to being in the same situation as Arthur Parker. And I think it was touch and go, really, that she was within weeks of not being able to give a sense. So that's one of the reasons that I'm here, is because I basically promised Judith that I would pursue this, because it was for her and for myself as well, because I need to see a future where I can give an advance directive, because I'm alone, no immediate family members, etc., so I had no one to advocate for me. As for my background, you'll see my bio later, but I was born in Holland, came to Canada when I was 13 years old. I grew up in Guelph, Ontario, and Judith and I were true Canadians. We lived all over the place. We lived in Quebec, Ontario, Alberta, British Columbia, and now I'm in Nova Scotia. We spent most of our working lives at Athabasca University doing distance education. and were involved in basically the computerization of the course delivery. Both of us were. And we retired 12 years ago to the north side of the Minas Basin, where we gardened a lot. Judith was a fabulous rug booker, and I do a lot of bicycling. So that's basically where we are.
Thank you very much, Charles.
Oh, sorry, Charles, not laughing at you, laughing at Sylvia. Cat.
Oh, she feels like a puddle, sorry. She'll go there.
I have explained a little bit about the importance of creating and maintaining a historical record of the work that the council and each standing committee are doing. That job is open on the executive, and it's currently being advertised. Rachel put something up on Facebook over the weekend, and I did see it. So hopefully we'll get some response. I've put a closing date, the end of the week. The sooner we can get that position filled, but so far I've had no response. So hopefully now it's Monday and people will be back in the office and thinking about applying. I noticed when I saw it that 20 people had already shared the advertisement. So it's getting out there, it's circulating. We'll just hope it generates some interest. So having explained why the archivist position is so important, we need to look at the templates. And I'm going to ask that each of the standing committees going forward make an effort to use the templates for the agendas, the minutes, and the project plans. And if you don't have a copy of those 3 templates, please, someone on the standing committee, let me know, and I'll get them out to you. I'm supporting the VSED project at the moment, and I'm acting as the reporter on that. And I was struggling a bit to put my information in for the project plan. The Advocacy Standing Committee, when they did their initial report on their project plan, produced an incredible document. It was the format and the organization behind it was exactly what we were looking for. And so one of the members of the VAC and I worked hard to try and create a template that I could send out, and I did send one out, but it's cumbersome and difficult to use because I just didn't understand it well enough. So I met with Ed on Friday, and we had an opportunity to talk about it, as he was the creator of the original report. And outstanding job, Ed. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Ed now, and he's going to walk us through that template and how to use it most effectively. So Ed, over to you.
Okay. Let me, I think I've got control of the screen now. Can everybody see what's on my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. That's what might work.
Wow.
Okay, what I'm going to go through is, sorry, just what changes, let me get that out of the way. What changes are going to be made to the document. And really, like Leanna had mentioned, the structure didn't have a lot of guidance what should go into it. And I'm going to give you some examples of what goes in those documents and the changes that we'll be making. And you can continue your work right now, because it's really just going to be putting structure around the document and a little lead in, but the format really isn't going to change all that much. So if we look at it, this is annoying, I gotta get it. You look at it, I'm just kind of showing on the left the current template and kind of the example, which is basically our committee's document that we put forward. And what we're going to do is try and clarify things like version X should be like version, and right now we got date. May change that when I issue a template, the new template, may change that to a version number. Problem with the date is if you got 2 or 3 changes on the same day, it's hard to keep your version controls together. So it may not be a date, it may be something else. Committee X is just what committee, the first person witness council committee is producing the document. Abstract, the contents of the abstract, you can see an example, and really what the abstract is just a kind of a brief note of what the document contains and what its purpose is for. You'll see this PowerPoint's going to be issued, so no use reading that, but you'll see that information. And Leanna, I would attach this document to the minutes if that's okay with you and Jenny. Just give them a little bit, or even issue it before the minutes. It doesn't matter. Jenny's going to take a while to get to.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, and the template X, recorder's name and email. That's pretty straightforward stuff. You can see. And I think one of the issues is the template show like project selected and project selection contents. I think that's where a little bit of the downfall was, exactly what is expected to be into those. And that's what the new template is going to show, is give a little bit of direction, what should be in there as far as contents and stuff like that. So project selection, just straightforward. We as the advocacy committee had 3 or 4 choices that we could make, and we chose to do allowing advanced made requests. Some of the other committees, like education and grief, may not have choices, but things like access barrier, I know there was 3 or 4 choices they had for their project and all. And this section just defines which one you're doing. Straightforward statement in there is all that's required. And percentage complete. There's some concern about this percentage complete. That's really just an indication of where you are within your document. Ours, you can see it's 100%. We selected the project. We're not changing it. It's done. We're not going to revisit it, and that's why it's 100% complete. Project goals is why you're doing it, not what you're doing, but why you're doing it. And for us, it's developing a comprehensive action plan eventually is that it'll help lay out a framework of strategies that are essential to getting legislative approval for advanced made requests. That's our ultimate goal, and that's what it is. Not necessarily the goal of the document you're producing, but the ultimate goal on why you're producing this document. Again, there's an example, and it's 100% complete. That's, as far as we're concerned, that's what we're doing, and that's what we're going to advance towards. Project activities. This is really the meat of the document, and the only thing that's going to be there is kind of structured, how you lay it out in bullet points and stuff like that. Because the initiatives themselves, the activities that you're going to do, that's your knowledge. You're selected because of your expertise and knowledge, and the activities are what you are going to do to produce that. You'll see examples of what's in front of you, but these are really your section. That's the meat that you're going to have in your document. And a couple examples. I'll just go through, a couple examples of what we view as initiatives. The first one is educate ourselves. There's no use reinventing the wheel in a lot of these things. We just went through and found some items that already have discussed advanced requests, and we need to go through them. You can see we got 50% complete, just as a gut feel. The ones we've looked at, the ones that we've still got to look at, we're about halfway through them. And again, that's subjective, but it's just kind of where you are in that initiative in a project. And here's the next example is we've got as established categories for advanced made requests. We view it as 100% complete. Ignore the yellow for a minute, I'll explain that. But there's 3 scenarios, some from Dying with Dignity Canada, some from Government of Canada and stuff like that. So it's saying, those are the 3 scenarios that are applicable for advanced made requests. We're not gonna do any more that we see right now, so it's 100% complete. So our documents are going to be structured around those types of categories. And the yellow part is with the Quebec Superior Court decision last week or the week before. It may change some things, and the yellow is just a placeholder for myself that says I got to make changes to that area. And in our meeting last week, what the advocacy committee decided, we're going to leave the document based on the current made legislation, and put a footnote, the yellow indicates, we'll put a footnote that says it may change if different legislation is enacted, but right now we are only dealing with what is legal, and that's what our document's going to be structured around. And hopefully there's changes on, in particular, reasonably foreseeable as the Superior Court has mandated, and we'll just adapt the document after that's approved. I don't know if you want to talk about that, Leanna, or anybody. I mean, that's our decision on how we're going to produce a document is based on existing legislation. I don't know if you want other direction or not.
Does anyone present have questions that they would like to ask about the project plan template?
Okay, I got a few more that we'll go through, and just to wrap it up, just on the next slide is the project timeline. You can see it's just what work we're going to produce. Some are already produced in yellow highlight. The next one is, and I think Leanna, you're going to get to it, is when is our next update due? It was going to be on the 16th. Now that's changed. So that's it. And we talk about alternatives considered. For ours, we had 3 areas, and we just put a little note of which ones we're not doing and maybe the priority if we've got other activities we can do, and a little bit of brief reason why we didn't select that as our first priority. And that's all it is, just a little description. Some of you may not, like education, you may not, and probably grief, you may not have alternatives you considered, but certainly I know access barriers had a number of things to choose from. And the last thing.
Sorry, I think all the standing committees have a variety.
Oh, do they? Okay, then they may all have some. Yeah.
Yeah, they all do.
So in the last slide is just the document template that's here right now. It really has no content control. It'd be similar to the document on the right where it happens to be the minutes template. There's going to be a little bit of structure for consistency in what you go into those. So it's going to be a little bit more helpful to use, but really the ultimate format and the contents isn't going to change. So you can continue on now. We'll just have a better template for you to use. And like the note says, that is content control and structure in the document, but the actual contents is still your responsibility. The template that's going to come out isn't going to do that for you. That's your responsibility. We're just going to put a little more structure and control around the document.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ed. Just one question on my part. Will you be doing just a brief directions or explanations to go with the template when you send it out?
Yeah, similar to one of the, you can still see me, is just like dates or a little bit under, here, let me get the last one. A little bit under, here, project goals. So there'll be a description of goals, description on project selection, initiatives, again, initiatives, there we go. Initiatives are the committee's own information they're going to put out. So there's not a lot that's going to be in there, Leanna, but goals and project selection will have a little bit better description. Excellent. And I think maybe an example like this helps guide people on what to put in. The only problem with examples is everybody tends to just change the words, and you get the same thing over and over again.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone else have any questions or comments? Well, I want to thank you very much, Ed. Your original document was so impressive in terms of the organization of it, and it jumped right out immediately as being something that would help us with the archives and creating a permanent record of what the FPWC is doing and will be doing in the future. So thank you very much for doing that presentation and for working on making it the very best template that it can be. I really appreciate that. Ed did allude to the fact that we will be setting some guidelines and times and dates. I'm going to do that in the part of the agenda that deals with the next meeting. So I'll come back to that later. Thanks again, Eddie.
You're welcome. And I sent Jenny an email this morning, like we talked about the other day, is I need some help on her. So if you're talking to her, just need to set up a time with her.
Okay, that's great. Council feedback was item number 5 on the agenda today. And we're a very, very new group. It's exciting to have this kind of autonomy to create a communal voice for the country so that patients and loved ones have an opportunity to address issues and challenges and concerns, not with just Bill C-14, but with end-of-life choices in general. And so, as with every organization, as we grow, we're going to discover some things are working really well and other things need to be addressed and changed. So we're very much a work in progress, and I see us being that for the first year. Hopefully, by the end of the first year, we know exactly where we're going and how we're going to get there. But at this stage, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Kelsey Goforth, who is our liaison for Dying with Dignity Canada. And Kelsey and I have done a bit of chatting about this, and she's going to go ahead and address the questions that we sent out in advance. So over to you, Kelsey.
Great. Thank you, Leanna, and thanks to all of you for the work you've been doing so far. It's great to be here in the meeting today and to see your faces and learn a little bit more about you. So yes, as Leanna was saying, this council is the first of its kind. We haven't had a council working in quite the same way before, and it's so important that your voices are considered as we move forward with various projects. And you know, the way we see the council is just as a way to make sure that what we're doing is aligned with what those needs are. So I think looking to your experiences and hearing about what you went through and what worked for you and what didn't and what you wish you had during that experience, I think reflecting on that will be really helpful as you move forward, because it will help fill some of those gaps for other people who might be going through the experience as well at some point in time. So it's so important that we have you so passionate and so willing to do this work, and we're so grateful that you're here. As Leanna said, we have a number of questions that we sent out in advance, and we'd love to hear your thoughts on it. There's a lot to reflect on, of course, so if you have more to add later on, feel free to email. But initially, what are your thoughts on what's going well so far with the council? And this can be in terms of structure, in terms of the work that you're doing. What is successful right now?
I think the committee structure is working quite effectively, at least, you know, based on the advocacy committee. I can't really speak to the others. Leanna and Kelsey have both been very responsive to questions directed to you and requests for assistance and so on. So I think the structure is a good one.
I'd agree with Sue on that. It is certainly the meetings and stuff like that are helpful. I mean, there's other issues and challenges when we get to there, but I mean, certainly the communication is there.
I can't really comment, having only been with this group for about 4 or 5 days. But I see a couple of things as I read the documents, and one is that I'm on the education committee, and it seems like a pretty huge task. Just that sentence, creation of materials for public awareness, et cetera, et cetera. patient-centered awareness about AIDS educational initiatives. Well, it will be interesting, of course, but it is. I think it's going to have to be done carefully. And my background really in computer science is as a systems analyst, so you know that thing about a carpenter approaching everything with a hammer. That would be my first approach, is to just understand, of course, what the needs are, and then work from there. But I have one comment about the committee structure, and when I'm thinking about the education committee and its responsibilities, I think there may well be more than the occasional time when committees will need to work together and share resources, because there are overlapping responsibilities. So I guess we need some way, either somebody on each committee to communicate with the other committees, or some kind of structure or formal way to do this, you know, to co-opt another committee, or perhaps expertise on other committees to help with, you know, with specific tasks. Other than that, I was really pleased to be asked to join, because I found incredible support for Judith's choice when we decided to start talking about it, and it's really to mobilize that support that I think is one of the main roles that the Education Committee will take on.
Anyone else? Okay, Leanna, did you have anything to add, or?
I don't feel at liberty to add because I created the council.
or comment on?
It's your baby.
That's right, it's my baby. But you're going to tell me how to teach it to work properly.
We're all learning.
Okay. And can you hear me okay? Okay. I'm hearing a bit of something going on, but so long as you can hear me, that's good. So what issues or challenges do you see in these early days that need to be addressed? And some of these could be in process of being addressed, and some of them might be new ones that that you're seeing emerge as we move forward. And if sometimes we don't have the answers right away, but if you do have suggestions or ideas for how they could be resolved, we of course want to hear those as well. And if you don't know how they'll be resolved, that's okay too. Feel free to put them out there, and we'll see how we can best address them.
Okay, I have a question about how to do something more effectively, and Ed in some ways alluded to this a little earlier, not wanting to reinvent the wheel. So on the advocacy committee, part of what we're trying to understand is some of the legal background to how we are where we are today. What are some of the issues that are being raised in some of the court cases, et cetera. And rather than saying, well, okay, we should go out and research all of this, when surely Dying with Dignity Canada has all of this information or material accessible to it, if not in its own archives. How can we ask effectively for access to those kinds of materials and documents? Mm-hmm. Or is it not possible because of the solicitor-client relationship or whatever?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. There is some information on the site. So like the College of Physician and Surgeon effective referral case that we went through a couple times because it was appealed. There's a lot of information about that case on the website. the Quebec decision, there was a decision in that just came out 2 weeks ago. So there'll be updates about that on the website as well. And the Lamb case, again, a big update last week, and I believe Leanna circulated some information on that as well. So, but a lot of it, because if we are interveners in some of these cases, a lot of the more confidential information, I don't even have that. It's usually with other people in the office. So a lot of that is a bit more protected, but we can see if there's something else we can dig up that might be helpful for you guys. But yeah, we try to post as much as possible on the website that is available to be shared a bit more widely. But if there's anything in particular you're looking for, feel free to email me and I can see what I can do. But yeah, happy to look into it. And also the best person, I mean, feel free to email me, but the best person would be Corey. And Leanna has Corey's information as well. So if you like, feel free to go directly to Corey as well. He's sort of the legal court person here in the office, and he, yeah, he's the best person to ask.
And I think that's very legitimate, Kelsey, and I encourage the standing committees to do that. It will lift a little of the pressure off me. So we'll ask Corey if he wouldn't mind supporting us. And so then the recorder, it would become the job of the recorder to contact Corey. I'd like to see it designated to one specific person on every standing committee so that Corey isn't being inundated with too many requests for information, that only one person on every standing committee be tasked with contacting Corey for that information. And you don't need to come to me and ask me, and you don't need to go to Kelsey and ask her. We'll open that channel effective as of this meeting, that you would go directly to Corey as a standing committee.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for bringing that up, Sue. That's great resolution there. Back to you, Kelsey. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. And just to add to that as well, Leanna said, I said, we're fine with you going directly to the person who's going to be able to help in the best way. And if you don't get a response and it is urgent, just send another quick email. We're a small team. We get a ton of email. So if it is very timely, just send a quick nudge. Totally understandable. We get that some things need a quicker turnaround time, so feel free to do that. Yeah, any other issues, challenges that you wanted to raise?
Yeah, Kelsey, and we've talked about it in our committee and stuff like that. I guess there's a couple things. First of all, it is trying to figure out what the next step is after this. We produce a document, whatever date that's going to be now, and that's the second issue is, there's been multiple dates. I'm not sure what the final date is going to be and stuff like that, but that's fine. That's okay. I can see why that's fluid and changes, especially with personnel changes and all that kind of good stuff that causes delays. But what's the next step?
Right. So
produce the document. What happens after that?
Yep. So you'll produce your document, your proposal. Leanna and I think we'll have a discussion first, just the two of us. And if there is anything that I need a little bit more clarity on, I'll go back to Leanna, who can coordinate with you, so I can get those questions answered. Before any major decision, if it's involving a very large project or an area that we maybe haven't worked in before fully, it's going to require me to talk to Cameron, who is our acting CEO at this point in time. Cameron works in the office. We work very closely together, so I anticipate that we can have those discussions quite quickly. We don't want to keep people waiting around. Since he is an acting CEO, certain things I don't anticipate too many, but depending on the nature of the proposals, some might need some board members to approve. I don't anticipate that to be the case with too many pieces. I think just having Cameron's approval would be enough. But I'm really hoping that we can get things moving quickly, get any questions answered if we do need clarity, and then moving along and giving you the go-ahead to take those next steps. Does that help?
No, not as much as I was hoping. No, I mean I understand the approval process, Kelsey, and that's fine, and I understand that, and rightfully it should be done that way. There's no doubt. But I guess it's more of the action plan, taking action. Is that our responsibility to lead? Is that something done with dignity? Obviously needs to either get behind or lead. That's where I'm a little unclear.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a great question. Our hope is that for most of the projects, and again, I have to see the final proposals, and I don't think we can blanket statement all of them, but I think, it's the idea is that the projects will be led by the First Person Witness Council, with the support and the resources that you need to do that. So, for the grief committee, for instance, I can see them working with Nino, who's our psychotherapist on staff here, and me. I manage the support program, so I can see us being quite involved with that. For educational pieces, Maureen, my colleague, runs the education side of things here, so I see, a lot of working together, but in terms of leading the projects and coming up with those plans, which you're doing, but also once the plans are approved, seeing, what are the steps we need to take and what resources do we need to do that. So if you do need some staff, just to sit down and talk it out a little bit more, we can arrange for that. If you need us to make some introductions to other, people who specialize in whatever it is that you're working on, we can make some of those connections, but we really need the sort of on the ground coordination parts. We're hoping that can be through the council as well. And I think that will tie into what we'll talk about soon, Leanna, about the name of the council, and we're gonna, that's a whole other discussion, but we want to make sure that there's clarity as to what the role is, and we're making some changes on our end to make that hopefully as clear as we can.
Okay.
Anyone else? No? Okay, great. Thanks, guys. Do you have an idea for future improvements to the council that you feel would help us to work effectively in teams and as a whole? And if you have specific steps and goals in mind, please share those as well.
Nothing for me, Kelsey, right now.
No.
Okay.
No, me neither.
All righty.
So I think, Kelsey, this particular one may be linked to the one that we're coming to next.
For sure. Okay. Do you want me to go ahead then with that, Leanna?
Yes, please. This is under new business.
Mm-hmm.
And I've asked Kelsey to come forward and talk about some problems that I encountered, some information that was drawn to my attention as I was going through the recruitment process and bringing new people on board. During the interviews, a number of people brought up some points that we're going to try and address. And so I've asked Kelsey to please initiate this discussion with you and get it going out with the whole council. So Kelsey, again, I'm going to ask you to speak, please.
Sure, thank you. So we, like Lana said, it came to our attention that there might be some issues with the title of the group, First Person Witness Council. And just to give a bit of background, this idea to have a first-person witness council, of course, made up of individuals who had gone through the MAID experience themselves, who wanted to share about those experiences and help to advocate for better access, better support, and just the ability to share, how things can be improved, whatever that might look like, and based on whatever area of interest stands out to you and what you were most affected by. So I wasn't involved with the title First Person Witness Council. Another staff member was involved with that. I don't quite know how that name was, how it originated, but that's sort of just what we had in place. And when I took over as a staff person liaison, that's just what we had. But what has happened as we expanded and actually got the council off the ground is it became quite clear, and it has been from the beginning when Leanna and I were working together early on, that we wanted the council to be a working group or an assembly of people who would be working and coming up with project ideas and not really operating in the advisory council space. That sort of gives the picture that it's, we're giving you something and you're advising on it and then we take it back and do whatever with it. And there might be elements of that down the road, of course, but what we really imagined is that this would be something where you could really take the lead on figuring out what it is that's missing, what spaces we could fill that exist right now, and proposing what that could look like, and really helping to coordinate a lot of that on the ground work. So the other issue too, and we noticed this mainly when we were doing recruitment, the last couple rounds of recruitment that we did, is that the witness side was very confusing for people because, as many of you know, we also have an independent witness program for people struggling to find witnesses for their request forms. So some people were applying thinking that they were applying to be witnesses when really that wasn't the case. So because of the confusion with that, and also because we want to make sure that the intention of the council is very clear through the title of it, we were thinking that it might be appropriate to consider changing the name of the council to something else that's accurate and reflective of the actual work that you're doing. So some ideas, we have some ideas floating around, and I wanted to run them by you, get some initial thoughts. I don't expect us to have it decided today or anything. It might take a little bit of time to finalize and think on, but some of those ideas were the Dignified Death Working Group, End of Life Advocacy Working Group. What else do we have here? Dignified Death Advocates Working Council. The Dignified Death Advocacy Working Group. Not sure if I said that one already. And I think the struggle here is we want to strike that balance between being accurate and encompassing all the amazing things you're doing, but also it can get wordy because there's a lot going on, of course. So we want to strike that balance and not have something too long, but something that also is reflective. So any initial thoughts, anything that you think, any words that you think definitely need to be included in that so that we can better reflect the work of the council? Just anything initially that you have, any thoughts you have would be great. And you can think about it, of course, and get back to us.
Sylvia, were you about to say something?
Well, no, it's a couple of things went through my mind, but it doesn't take in everything. So I've seen your problem with needing so many words, but I think shorter is better in my mind for catching attention. Otherwise, it just becomes a what? What's that?
And I think as you have some time to ponder and consider and perhaps submit a potential name, the things that are really important is that it encompasses the end of life journey.
Yeah.
And it's not just MAID, that it encompasses, palliative care, hospice. So looking at the whole end of life experience, that's one component of the name. The other component is that we are people with lived experience. And I'm sure that's where the first person witness came in, that we are the people who were there at the time and we have lived this experience. And the other thing is to let people know that we are not giving advice or our opinions on initiatives that have already been undertaken. We're actually generating ideas. We're generating projects. Ed, going back to your concern, we are doing the work. So we're an action group, whether you call us a Senate or an assembly or a council or a group, doesn't matter. But we need to get the idea that we're working, we're creating solutions, we're generating projects and work. So because one of the people I interviewed was concerned, she said, oh, this is way more than an advisory council. And that, I hadn't thought about that before. She's absolutely right. And the time commitment that you're making to a working group is very different than the time commitment being made to an advisory council. So those three components, please, when you're generating a potential name, and get together, do some brainstorming within your standing committee. Anyway, back to you, Kelsey, sorry.
Yeah, that's I think that's all I had on the name front, but yes, happy to hear anyone's ideas. I talked to Cameron about this in particular and next steps. I mentioned that we were going to do some brainstorming, and we will need to get buy-in from not the whole board, but a couple. I was thinking of talking to some of the doctors and MAID providers on the board, because I think they'd have the best understanding of what you are doing, your experience, and just how to, like I said, encompass all that's going on with the council, or whatever we will soon call it, and make sure that, just getting their thoughts as well might be good. Leanna, I did have one other new business item that just happened at the lunch table, so I'd like to share that too. So I was speaking with our communications team, mainly Alex Dadalt, and she takes care of a lot of our print publications, like newsletters, for instance. And they are in the process of drafting the newest newsletter. And I'm not sure what the publication date will be. I think this is the one that will come out at the end of the year, December. But what they would love to do is do a profile on the First Person Witness Council, soon to be renamed into something else, and just, share a bit about what you'd like to do, who the members are as well. We'll, of course, list all the members, but it might be nice to have more of an in-depth interview with some of you to get a bit more about your experiences. So I'm not 100% sure about the format and what everything will look like, but I just know that they really want to profile this group in particular and share that with our supporter base at the end of the year. So the person to reach out to, if you're personally interested in talking to her, is Alex Dadalt. And Leanna, I'll send you her email address and you can circulate it to the rest of the group. But yeah, please do email her as soon as you can, just because we often have pretty tight timelines on things like this. So she's happy to discuss more with you about what that could look like. And yeah.
I'll send out her contact information to the group.
Perfect.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Kelsey. That's exciting to see that we're going to be profiled and introduced formally, because I know we're the latest baby on the block. The meeting is drawing to a close. I have 3 minutes left, so very quickly, I'm just going to go to the agenda for the next meeting. At the next meeting, I would like all the standing committees to present their final reports. Ed and Jenny are working on creating the new template for the project plans, and I'm allowing them some wiggle room and some time. So I would like to see that on my desk on or before October 7th. October 7th, yes, which is 2 weeks from now. Ed, does that sound like a reasonable timetable for you?
Yeah, it does, especially, I mean, assume if Jenny can get some time this week, then yeah, it is.
Okay, good. If not, let me know and I'll back the calendar up again.
Okay.
Then I would like the standing committees to take the new project plan template and work with it to create your final project plan. Excuse me. And I would like that on my desk by October 21st. I'll be bringing those to you, Kelsey. There should be 5 of them because we have the 4 standing committees and the VSED information package. So I would like to present those to Kelsey as after the 21st. And that'll give Kelsey and I a chance to go over them and see if there's any tweaking that needs to be done, because I would like the standing committees to present that at our next council meeting, which will be the week of October 28th to 31st. Once we have all that in place and those projects have been presented to the council, then Ed, that's where we come into the initiating the work phase. And from the 1st of November on, all the standing committees will hopefully be actively engaged and producing work. So whether it's a report or the review of an, well, whatever your project is, you'll be, as of the 1st of November, you will be at work producing something. So are there any questions?
Leanna, sorry, I missed that. October 28th to 31st. There's too many council names. What council is being presented?
The First Person Witness Council. That will be the full council meeting.
Okay.
The standing committees will meet in the meantime to create their project plans and submit them to me by October 21st.
Okay.
And then by November 1st, everybody should be free to go ahead and work independently to generate your own materials.
Okay.
After that, I become your mentor, your support. I answer questions. I do whatever you need. You're on your own after the 1st of November. You'll be doing it independently. You'll be making the decisions. You'll be generating the work. Okay, here we are at precisely 2 o'clock. Our 1 hour is finished and my bird is serenading in the background.
Yeah, sounds lovely.
Yeah. So I would like to call this meeting to a close.
Okay.
Any objections? Any more issues that need to be covered? No? Then by consensus, we agree. The meeting is now adjourned.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. That was
Bye, everybody.
a great meeting. Yeah, terrific.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.